Welcome back to Beyond the Headline, everyone. It is such an exciting day to be on the show because I'm here with my good friend Scott Crabtree, the founder and CEO of Happy Brain Science. Scott, thanks for coming back on the show.
Such a delight to be with you again, Jenna. Thanks for having me.
I'd love to kick off with just the basics about how gamers approach the workplace differently.
It's a great question. I think as a gamer and with gamer friends, we talk about making work a game, making work more like a game. What does that mean? What I've been thinking about a lot lately is that our brains are wired to survive in a cold, harsh world out there. Out there in a cold, harsh wilderness. And you don't have to go back very far in human history to find your great-great-great-great-grandparents or whatever dealing with lions and tigers and bears and whatever else out there. Our brains are wired to survive. They're scared and they're skittish and they don't focus much and they're fear-driven and they avoid danger and all great for keeping us alive out there, but maybe very different from what we need to thrive in here. In an office where we're working with fellow smart human beings and nobody's attacking us and we're not about to get eaten by lions. So if you think about the words that come to mind, I mean, you could just try this for yourself and for your listeners, viewers. What comes to mind when you think work? It's serious stuff, right? It's I'm gonna work hard and effort and diligence and care and all this stuff. Now, what comes to mind if you think play? It's a lighter feeling for most of us, at least. If you're a gamer at all, when you say, okay, what comes to mind when you say play? You think fun and points and victory and achievement and interaction and positive stuff. So for me, approaching work like a game might help us shift from too serious, too fearful, too careful, into more playful, lighter, more adventurous, more willing to take some risks. And I think that's exactly what we need to overcome our survival-driven brain wiring to help us really thrive at work.
So you mentioned take risks, and I was just talking with Phoebe Heyman yesterday, who's the founder of Seedling, a children's play company. She said one of the things that she sees so different between the kids and the adults is when you give kids a project or a problem, they're so excited to create something. And when you give it to adults, their first reaction is, I don't know how to do that. Or I've never done that before, so maybe I should look this up, versus just trying. Yep. I know the gamer's mindset plays in there. How do you respond to that and say, hey, I'm going to try something new?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly part of why approaching work like a game can be so helpful. Because a game is a safe place, if you will. Yes, you can die, but it's your virtual character dying and you press a button and you come right back. So the consequences for failure are pretty light, right? And I think what you're getting at is so wise and so important. We get afraid of risk and afraid of failure, and it makes us stop taking good chances, stop striving for goals that are as big or ambitious as they could or should be. So a game, I think kids and gamers are more likely to just jump in and try something, because what do you have to lose? Just a virtual life. Well, and if you instead of work and jump in and take some risks, what do you have to lose? Not much. It's just work. You know, it's not trying to survive with lions and tigers and bears. We're working. We're doing some fun stuff. We're making stuff. Let's be light about it. Let's take some risks. Let's lose a few virtual lives and iterate again.
I think it sounds so much easier than it actually is, because I've thought of this and I have a super type A personality. So I'll start the day and say, I'm going to do this. And then once I start, that idea goes out the window. How can type A's, are there little hacks that you can try in your day-to-day?
That's a good question. It is hard to sustain our intention, right? We come up with a mindset we want, and we're like, I'm going to think this way the whole day. And then at 10:15, you're like, oh, I'm stressed out and I got to minimize risk and I got to. So I think it's recommitting and developing a habit. For gamers like me, this might be a bit of a stretch, but I think playing games actually can lighten us up. I mean, if you're in that mode where you're just being playful more often, it's easier to bring that mode to work. As far as hacks, I think I think language is so important for us. It primes us for how we think about something, how we approach something. So what we often say at work is, let's get to work. And what I occasionally hear if I'm at a game company or some other playful startup is, let's play with this and see what happens. So for me, just the language you use, the things you put on your calendar, the way you write something down on your to-do list affects how you approach it. And maybe you can approach things in a more playful way and a more educational way. So I believe that you and I have talked before about what Carol Dweck at Stanford calls a growth mindset, where you're focused on learning and growth more than proving your ability or your talents, right? So one specific thing that we recommend at Happy Brain Science is to take goals from SMART to SMARTEST. I don't want to get on a long side tangent about what all that means, but the E in SMARTEST means educational, to nurture a growth mindset. So even when you take a goal, you can take a goal as we need to produce results and demonstrate value and be very, very serious about it. Or you can say, let's see what we can learn about producing an interview series or making a card game or whatever else the goal is. See what we can learn in the process.
Wow, so I didn't know that it literally goes back to the way you write something on your to-do list.
Yeah, it's interesting. And so I think it's anywhere you can think about what you're doing in a slightly different way. And it's hard to build habits, right? You know this. It's hard to build habits. To build a habit effectively, you need a cue or a trigger, the activity, and some sort of reward. So the question for building a habit to be more playful at work is, what are those cues? Is that starting a new task? Is it entering a meeting? Is it writing something down on your to-do list? Is it defining a goal? Figuring out what those cues are so that you can approach work more playfully and then enjoy the results of that lighter, more successful, more creative experience, then you're well on the way to building a habit.
So one of the things that I think often gets lost, Scott, and you and I have discussed this before, is when we think about a playful workplace, it sounds like a very well-funded startup and all they do is eat fancy snacks and play ping pong. And
Yes.
that's not what gamifying the workplace means at all. Can we go through an example, like you were saying, of instead of saying, let's get to work, let's see what we can find out here to demonstrate that to people listening in?
Yeah, absolutely. As far as gamifying a workplace, I had a big paradigm shift, Jenna, recently when I read a wonderful book called Glued to Games by Rigby and Ryan, two academics who are researching what makes games so compelling. And it's amazing to me because I started in this game world where I was doing lots of game design and building games and loved it, right? Discovered this science of happiness, human motivation, thriving at work world, loved that, and moved over here. And along the way, somebody said you should read this book. It took me a while. I finally read Glued to Games, and it all came together in the following way. In my positive psychology world, there's a core set of research called self-determination theory. Deci and Ryan are the academics who lead that research. But anyway, same Ryan who wrote this book, by the way. Anyway, that research suggests that three key motivators for human beings are autonomy, mastery, and relatedness. Or, as Daniel Pink popularized it in his book Drive, autonomy, mastery, and purpose. But those three core needs, it turns out, are also what make games so fun and so compelling for us. The most successful games deliver lots of autonomy, lots of ability to master, get better at something. And games don't have to deliver all three, but the most successful games do deliver all three, where you also get relatedness, right? So the naive person, and I don't mean to be rude or insulting to anybody, but somebody who hasn't read or thought about this, when they think about, well, let's make work more fun or let's gamify work, they think, yeah, let's have ping pong
Ping pong.
tournaments and let's get Nerf guns and shoot them at each other because that'll be playful. And yeah, that's playful, but that's not at the heart of what make games so fun for us and can also make work so fun for us. And it's again down to autonomy, mastery, and relatedness. So as far as gamifying work, I think about, okay, how can I give my employees and anybody I'm working with, consulting with, how can I give them as much autonomy as possible? So a risk for a expert like me who gives workshops, etc., is you start to feel like, oh, I know all the answers. I study the science. Let me tell you what to do. Well, like my wife tells me on a frequent basis, don't tell me what to do. Nobody wants to be told what to do, right? So depending on the stage of your career or the mindset you have, you think, I'm a manager, I'm in charge, I'm going to tell these people what to do. Yes, leaders have to lead the way, but leading through goals and objective, not by micromanaging people. So lots and lots of autonomy will make work more engaging and feel more game-like, even if you're never talking about points or bonuses or badges, right? Similarly, mastery, also sometimes referred to as competence in the academic literature. People want to feel that they're good at something, right? The way games deliver that so well for us that we can mirror at work is getting the challenge just right, just at the edge of somebody's ability, meeting them just at the edge of what they're able to do. Games do this so well because you can program a game to say, oh, this person's falling behind in the race, let's slow the leader down a little bit. Oh, this person's past the leader, let's give the second place person a boost. Games are masterful at keeping you right at the edge of your ability. If we adapt that at work, if I give somebody an assignment or I tailor a project for myself, so it's not too easy, not too hard, right at the edge of my ability, then it tends to engage me with competence and mastery. Also, as an aside, tends to lead to the experience that I believe you and I have talked about of flow. Mm-hmm. The zone that you get in where everything's clicking, you're completely focused on something right at the edge of your ability again. So autonomy and mastery, don't micromanage them. Give them tasks right at their edge of their ability and lots of feedback. Games are constantly giving you feedback on the moment. Hey, what you just did a second ago worked or didn't, but also longer term. Here's the graph of how you've been playing over the past few months. Here's the ladder where you're moving up relative to your peers that you're competing against, whatever. So games give you lots of short-term and long-term feedback to keep you at the edge of your ability and engage mastery. And then relatedness. Fundamental human need for us to connect to each other. It's great to talk with you because you and I connect and we feel relatedness, and that's part of why I love doing these interviews with you. We want that everywhere we go. Introverts need it even though they don't get as much energy from it, or it takes a little more energy from them. We all want and need and get a boost from social contact and meaningful relatedness with each other. So I was really, really excited when my game world and my positive psychology world came together through this self-determination theory. The same things that engage us in games and make them fun is what can engage us in work and make work so fun and engaging and great for us. Autonomy, mastery, and relatedness. So you can go beyond that and start to get real game-like elements with points and badges and progress meters and things like that. And some of that works and should be done at work. But the heart of it, the core of it, is satisfying psychological needs for people. In here, we need autonomy, we need to feel like we're good at something, and we need to be connected to other people. And if you can deliver that in a game or at work, you're going to engage people and get them doing great work and having fun in the process.
And when you say connection to, you were giving a talk and in a blog post you were sharing that you just posed the question, why are games a good way to teach something? And you got a lot of great responses. One that I loved was, games connect people to each other. You can build teams while you play. Because it reminded me that if we're all at the beach, you get together with random people that you've never met and you play volleyball with them. And you have a great time and you're hitting it off. But if you work in a larger company and you see someone you've never seen sitting at lunch, you're probably not going to go sit with them. You're going to sit by yourself. Can we talk about
Yep.
that connection element?
Absolutely. Again, games don't have to do this to be successful, but the best games deliver that relatedness by connecting people to each other. And if your listeners, viewers have been paying any attention to games over the past 10 years, you've seen a massive swing. 10 years ago, most games were sit by yourself and play on a console. And in recent years, it's hard to think of a game that is not multiplayer oriented. Whether it's blank with friends or any other game that you're
I
doing, there's
miss that
almost
game.
always some. What's that?
I miss that game.
So I was thinking words with friends, but
Hmm.
anyway, any of those games with friends or they, we want to be connected to each other. And so at Happy Brain Science, we made this card game, and I come from a video game background, but I intentionally started with a card game because it was designed for building morale and teamwork and engagement at work. And one of the best ways to do that is to get people sitting together face to face and looking at each other, making eye contact. A huge amount of emotional information comes through our eyes, and we spend most of our time staring at computers and not each
With our
other's
head down.
eyes. So we're not connecting, we're not relating as well as we could be at work. So getting people together physically is a great way to start building that relatedness and connection. And then the game can help, any game or the game that we made, Choose Happiness at Work, because the whole context lightens up the discussion. So imagine two scenarios here, if you will. One is I get my team together and I sit us down over lunch at an offsite and I say, okay, it's time to talk about problems we have at work. Who wants to start? It's a hard, awkward conversation where I say, well, I don't want to be mean, but Jenna is so friendly that I sometimes I need more time to get work done in the morning. I mean, I like you, Jenna, a lot, but I think that's tense and hard. And whereas in a game, specifically the game we made, there's a whole stack of problems and a stack of solutions that people are matching up. So the problems are coming from the game. And you can end up talking about real problems, but the problems are introduced in the context of a game. I didn't bring up that I'm working too many hours. It came up in the game. So it's lighter and playful and gets us connected in a way that feels safer. Games provide a safe container, if you will, for people to interact with less fear. The stakes are lower. It's just a game.
Mm.
But in fact, games can be doing very serious team building.
And I think one of the most important parts about that, specifically with Choose Happiness at Work, the game that your team created, is for larger and more hyper growth companies. Because once you start on that trajectory of growth, you really have to help every single person on the team and say, hey, your role might be getting smaller, but you have so many more responsibilities now. Here's what's going to happen as we scale up. What does gamifying the workplace mean when your company's growing every single month at such a rapid pace?
That's a great, great question. There's a pattern, there's a system for organizations. This goes back to some systems thinking stuff from a while back. Uh, Great book called The Fifth Discipline, if anyone wants to learn more about systems thinking. But anyway, one pattern that shows up over and over again for growing organizations is called growth and underinvestment. And the way that pattern shows up most often is a startup starts getting success, grows rapidly. You invest in more people to do the work, but not enough people to support those doing the work. So let's say that Happy Brain Science were having runaway success with coaching, and I just couldn't. So many coaching clients coming at us saying, "Please give us executive coaching," and I were like, "Great, I'm going to hire a bunch of coaches, and I'm investing well in hiring those coaches." I get 25 coaches up and running, but I didn't hire any administrative help. I didn't hire any bookkeepers to help with billing, etc. Nobody to support all those 25 coaches. Then those 25 coaches get spread too thin, we start to suffer quality problems, and then demand goes back and the organization goes, oops, we expanded too fast. That's the classic growth and underinvestment cycle for a small business. I think what you're touching on is there's a second similar pattern that can show up, which is or small team, startup, everyone's getting along, everyone understands the same culture, everyone knows each other, lots of autonomy, lots of mastery, lots of relatedness, right? Then organization grows fast. People stop knowing each other so well, harder to maintain the culture because you're just adding a lot of people. You don't really have time to train them right. Now, as you said, people don't know each other, so relatedness is going down. The culture starts to disintegrate from within. And so you go from small, great culture where everyone's well connected to big, but the culture's not there and problems start to come and then you contract again. So how do you gamify some of to prevent that pattern? I think you build in getting to know each other and working on the culture together in a fun way that again gives people autonomy, mastery, and relatedness. So new people, we want to help. We want to give you choices. We want to help you master our culture. People who've been here a while, we want you to pair up with somebody, have a teammate, if you will, in a game-like way, where you're their guide, you're their buddy, you're helping them navigate this new culture we have. So I think a lot about paying attention to preserving the core when you're expanding fast. And I think just being light and playful about it and not like you have to make sure to answer these 12 questions about our culture before your first 30 days are over. It's just like, what? No, let's play with it. Let's have some fun with it. Let's have a quiz game about our culture and our company, or just be playful about it because, as you said, playing is good for learning. We don't learn when we're very stressed out. We don't learn very well typically. We learn better when we're relaxed, and games and playfulness help us relax and therefore help us learn better.
I'm really glad you shared that because it lends to one of the quotes that you've had from a while ago in one of your posts where you said, play is one of the most powerful and least used strategies to improve human performance. So we know that. That's proven. And I'm wondering, Scott, as we have, so let's say we have a leader of this company that's scaling really fast. You have so many more responsibilities now. How do you keep that mindset? Because it's a different game. You know, you have a lot more money that you've borrowed. You maybe are thinking about going public.
This is not a very game-oriented question, but or answer from me. But the first thing that comes up for me when you ask that important question, Jenna, is that leaders need to stay connected. I mean, I did a workshop for a group of CEOs recently, and the workshop was about employee engagement, but my company is Happy Brain Science. They were like, so this happiness stuff, how do we stay happy when we're leading growing companies? And I said, look, it's not what I'm here to present about, but in a few words, stay connected to other people. Because as you said, as things are growing, you're worrying about everything in a way that other people aren't. You're more externally focused than internally focused. If you're in a rapidly growing company, you're raising money or whatever it is. So I think it's vital to stay connected to other people. And then it's vital to keep some lightness, keep some levity, keep some of that feeling of being small and light and nimble when you start. How do you keep that as you continue to grow? I think, again, you just try to be playful about things. You try to bring some humor and surprises and some of the things that make games so compelling for us. Humor is a wonderful lightening device for us. Games can lighten us. Humor can lighten us. And just try to stay playful even as the stakes get bigger. Right? Part of what games do for us is you build up a bigger and bigger army, or you build up a better and better race car, but still there's not that much to lose. It's just a game, right? So yeah, your company's getting bigger and bigger, and now you have funding and the stakes are higher, but it's still just a startup and you can still have fun with it. I don't know if this helps at all, but the main thinking is just try to stay light and playful and connected to other people.
So I could definitely see it as, remember in the simplest way, remember where you came from, keep that going. And one of my favorite things that I've learned from you is the 4-6-8 breath. So whenever I feel like I'm getting a little bit stressed, I practice the 4-6-8 breath and I'm all clear. Is there something, whether it's an actual practice or just a quick mentality shift that leaders in high growth companies or team members in high growth companies can quickly do to say, nope, this is just a startup. I'm going to go back?
Well, I think you wisely started hinting at it earlier, Jenna, when you were talking about experimentation and curiosity, right? So so in a game you try things, right? Because the consequences aren't that serious. I'm gonna try barging into this room and blasting my machine gun at everybody. Oops, that didn't work. I'm dead. All right, next time I'm gonna try coming in and sneaking into the corner, throwing a grenade, and then spraying gunfire. Oh, look, that worked. Great. As as you said earlier, when the stakes get higher, when people get more serious, they stop iterating. They
Well,
stop
literally, your
trying.
body becomes tense.
Yeah, yeah, they literally tighten up and they stop doing their best work because they're tight, right? So a playful iterative approach is, let's see how this goes. Let's see how many different things we can try in the next 3 hours. Or, okay, we've got a lot to do. I've got this, and this. Wow, it's overwhelming. I don't know how I'm going to get all this done. You know what? Let me just try a little experiment. I'm going to set a timer for 30 minutes. I'm going to do nothing else for that 30 minutes. I'm going to see how many blog posts I can write in that 30 minutes. Is it one? Is it two? Could I get three drafted up for somebody to review? I'm just going to experiment and see what happens. And you know what? A week later, I'm going to try it a different way. I'm going to move to a different place in the office. I'm going to see what happens there. The next time I'm going to go to a coffee shop, I'm going to give myself an hour. Just experimentation and curiosity can keep us lighter. So what can you try? What can you learn? Is a good phrase to turn to keep people iterating and experimental and curious.
And so that, I love that you said that because that's something that's, so I mean, 30 minutes. People spend 30 minutes on Instagram. You can spend
Yep.
30 minutes trying something, and that's not, causing any danger to the company.
Right. Exactly. Simple experimentation.
I'm going to keep that in my back pocket with the 4-6-8 breath. I like that one. I want to
Excellent.
touch on choose happiness at work for a couple more minutes because I think it's a really easy way for companies at whatever size to have these conversations because like we said before, it's very difficult for me to say, it kind of bothers me when you talk to me in the morning. Of course, you're going to take that in the wrong way. How often should companies be playing a game like Choose Happiness at Work?
Well, it depends on the company and the culture, how much time they have, but the beauty of it is the beauty of a lot of tabletop games like ours is that they don't require a massive setup. Now, some do. Some people are probably thinking of Settlers of Catan or something where it's like, oh, it's going to be a big, long, serious strategy game. But it doesn't have to be. Our game, Choose Happiness at Work, is a card game that has rounds, and a round can be done in 5 minutes. So I think I think companies need to come together face to face and do something that connects them regularly. I would suggest at least once a month. For if companies are really, really busy, it might be once a quarter. But getting that face-to-face connection and that playfulness is something that needs to be regularly infused into the relationships to keep people talking and open and light and curious and playful. So whether it's 5 minutes before lunch or an hour at an offsite or, hey, we're going to have a very creative meeting and we know that creative meetings work better when we're all feeling positive and light. So let's play this game for 10 minutes before we start our brainstorming. For me, the more the merrier when it comes to playing because it does bring such good benefits to us. It lightens us up, makes us more able to learn and create. But everyone has to decide. Again, autonomy is number one need, right? So I don't want to ever tell anyone you should play exactly 15 minutes once a week here. People have to experiment, be curious again, and see what works for them.
And it lends back to that really core trait that seems obvious, but I think gets missed a lot of that connectedness. Everyone can kind of
Yeah.
work in a silo and you might get great results because everyone knows what they're supposed to produce, but it's when you're actually sitting together and talking that positive, negative, new opportunities that you never thought of, that's where they come up.
Yes, and it also helps prevent problems. I had a boss at a large tech company who used to say, our whole extended team, which was scattered throughout several states, he said our whole team needs to get face to face roughly once a quarter, at most every 6 months, at least every 6 months, I mean. And if that doesn't happen, he started to see problems pop up. Oh, Jim is really upset with Kirsten over this whole thing, and Steven thinks that Jose is trying to undermine and steal his credit, and these problems tend to come up when people have not seen each other for 7, 8, 9 months face to face in person. So just getting people together, whether they're distributed teams or, as you said, in a small startup, you can all be in the same office, but be so busy, it's just like, all I see is my computer and my little marketing silo. I don't ever talk to anybody or whatever. It brings benefits. It also prevents problems. If people aren't connecting with each other, it's easy to start misunderstanding and misinterpreting each other. And then instead of building software or whatever else your company's doing, you're just fighting each other and trying to solve those problems, which never helps.
And so it's really it just is such a new mindset for me. I love it. It's just almost a way to check in with yourself. We have these 3 traits that we need to be working on: autonomy, mastery, and relatedness. Are we hitting these? If not, what do we need to do that?
Yeah, exactly. And you could even ask in regular one-on-one meetings, from a 1 to 10 scale, how much autonomy do you feel like you have at work? 1 is none, 10 is lots. Okay, next question. Do you feel like you're getting to learn and grow and master what matters to you? You say you want to be a fantastic programmer, great. From 1 to 10, if 1 is none and 10 is exactly what I need to learn and grow and master new programming skills, where are you? And then how about relatedness with other people in the office? Yeah, I mean, you could use it as a check-in in regular one-on-ones, for example.
And it's something that is really simple. So you can lay the foundation, check in on it, make sure you're hitting those things, and that people feel comfortable. I almost feel like, there's so many benefits of the gamer's mindset, but it's almost that courage to talk to people and take risks that seems like the founding value that leads to everything else.
Yes. Yes, I think that's right. It's fundamentally a mindset, and we both know how much mindset matters, right? So the gamer's mindset, as we've been talking about, is this lighter, more experimental, more curious mindset, and again, driven by these 3 core needs: autonomy, mastery, relatedness. And if on top of that, you just do some playful things more often, you're going to keep nurturing that light mindset. We had an internal meeting where we invited a bunch of people from other teams to come and give us feedback on demos. But we were a game group, so we thought, let's make this fun and gamey. So we'd show a demo, and then we literally had a big target up on the wall, and we gave everyone balls. And the targets on the wall, the middle of the target was like, I love this demo. Outer edge of the target was, I don't like this demo at all. And in between was I have mixed feelings about it. So rather than passing out survey forms or like, please answer the survey monkey later, it was like, okay, this is this demo. Here's how this works. This shows off this and this feature. What do you think of this demo? And everyone would take their ball and throw it at the target. And you'd get this instant, fun, playful feedback device. And because people are throwing balls at a target, it keeps it lighter when somebody throws it at the I don't like this demo as much feeling area of the target. It's a lighter feeling because it's like it's a game. We're playing. We're giving each other feedback. It's all part of the process of playing together. So it things like that, bringing more playfulness into work, actual game elements like that, could just remind us of that more experimental, fun mindset.
I love it. And it's just day-to-day things that you can practice.
Yeah. Yeah, another example, since you've been asking for hacks, is I believe maybe you and I have talked about how much progress matters to us, right? Progress and mastery hand in hand, right? Progress is progress towards something you want to master. So progress is huge motivator for us as well. And what do a lot of games do? They have a lot of progress meters, or you're this close to the next level wizard, or you're constantly getting feedback and progress. So here at Happy Brain Science, we have lots of progress thermometers up on the wall. Here's how many newsletter subscribers we have. Here's how many Twitter followers we have. Here's how many people have purchased Choose Happiness at Work, our game, or anything else that matters to us. We're trying to get up on the wall and use progress meters.
Brilliant.
Again, it's that sense of playful feedback. You can see it, and it feels like a game. We're trying to fill the thermometer. We're trying to reach the next level. We're trying to level up our company, so to speak.
I love all of this, and I'm so excited that we're able to close with those two examples because I think it demonstrates that, hey, it's not that hard. There's little things that you can do, whether it's playing a game or throwing the darts, which sounds like so much fun. Scott, I'd love to, before we go, have you share the best way for everyone to stay up to date with your team and learn more about this. You guys have great resources all the time through social media, through your blog, that provide these types of hacks and bite-sized pieces.
You mentioned and I mentioned some of the best ways. We do have a newsletter. It comes out once a month. I know lots of people have plenty of email, but this email comes with solid science-based practical things you can do to be happier at work. And happier, more engaged people at work, they produce better results, they make more money, they have better relationships, their health is better, they live longer. So we like to think that our one email a month provides creativity, more money in your pocket, a longer, healthier life. So why not sign up for that? So newsletter, you can sign up on happybrainscience.com, where we also have a blog. We are releasing a lot of videos on YouTube these days. So we have a Happy Brain Science channel on YouTube. And Twitter is the main, we're active on Facebook and other sites as well. But Twitter is the main place where I personally share hacks and new information coming out of science. I'm Scott Crab on Twitter. And relatedness matters to me too. And I feel that relatedness when I interact with people on Twitter or I get replies from the newsletters that we send out. So I love interaction with followers and would be honored and delighted if anyone wants to follow along.
Fantastic. Thank you as always, my friend. It was a pleasure to be with you.
Such a pleasure, Jenna. Thanks so much for having me.